537 apprentice, Ayeska Machado.
All right. Hello, Boston. My name's Ayeska Machado. I'm a third-year apprentice here at Local 537. I'm a proud graduate of Building Pathways, Cycle 24. A little bit more about me. I'm a single mother striving to build a better future for my kids. I'm an active member of my local union, and I'd like to say thank you to the incredible support here at Local 537. Having the support of my local brothers and sisters have made my life at work and at home a lot easier. And it means a lot to me. So thank you, everyone. Here at Local 537, I'm co-chair of the Women's Committee, and I am vice president of my apprenticeship class. I'm also an active member of Tradeswomen Building Bridges, Building a Stronger Boston, and the Tradeswomen Task Force, just to name a few. Being involved and being here for each other and doing our best to show up and fight the good fight is why all of this is possible. And thank you everyone for being here this morning and helping support us continue this important work. Welcome to 537. It is my esteemed privilege to introduce our panel this morning. Our first guest is our union brother, our ally, and our friend, Brian Doherty, the general agent of the Boston Building Trade Unions. Brian has been a proud member of Laborers Local 223 for over 25 years. Let's give Brian a warm welcome to the stage.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ayeska. Oh, you are awesome.
Sorry.
They're good. They're good.
All right.
Don't be.
All right.
He asked me to sit down.
Okay. It is now my great honor to invite our next guest to the stage. But before I do, I'd like to say a few words of our very special guest this morning, Vice President Kamala Harris. We do not have a better example of someone who stands up for what is right, who stands up for working people, and who always supports our movement here in Boston and across the country. Vice President Harris has been a champion of registered apprenticeships her entire career. Going back to her time in San Francisco as a district attorney, Vice President Harris is the chair of the White House Task Force on Worker Organizing, which implemented over 70 actions across the government to make it easier for workers to exercise their rights in the workplace. And earlier this fall, Vice President Harris announced the first update to prevailing wage rules in 40 years, which will give raises to construction workers across the country. It took 40 years, but not on her watch. She fights, she gets things done, and she's a fighter for all of us. Please join me in giving a very warm union welcome to our very special guest, our Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Can we hear it for Ayeska? Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Oh, it's good to be in the House of Labor, and it's good to see so many friends. Brian, it's good to be with you.
Great to be with you, Vice President.
So we got a lot to talk about, but let me just start by thanking everybody here. You all are the motivation for Joe Biden and me to do the work that we have done and will continue to do. We'll get into some of the accomplishments that we have done together. A lot of it, though, has been about investing in America and investing in the workers of America. Everything that we have done that has been transformative and historical in terms of our accomplishments, be it what we have done on the infrastructure bill and what we are doing to build back up and fortify America's infrastructure, to what we did with the Inflation Reduction Act, which is about an investment in new economies. Everything we accomplished when we were writing down the ideas and the plans is because we knew if we got it done out of DC, we were going to toss it to you all to see it through. That was the plan, knowing if we could get that stuff done in DC through these bills and all of that, you all would be here to pick it up and make it real. You have the skill, the talent, the will, the passion, the ambition to see it through. It's an extraordinary partnership, and we could not have accomplished any of it without the brothers and sisters of labor, building trades, and across the labor movement. So I am so happy to be with everybody today, and I just wanted to start by again saying thank you on behalf of the President and me and our country. Thank you all.
Let's hear it for our Vice President. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Vice President. We are so excited to have you here in Boston with us, a proud Union City.
Yes.
And before we start, I'd just like to say thank you to the incredible team here at Local 537, to Danny O'Brien and Paul McGrath, and to your team, Vice President. They came in and they set this entire room up. Let's give a warm round of applause for our hosts and everybody who put into today. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Danny.
So this is an exciting day. We have the Vice President of the United States right here in the Union Hall in the city of Boston, Pipe Fitters Local 537. So in this room, Vice President, as you know, this is our Greater Boston Labor Movement headed by our champion, Darlene Lombos. Let's hear it for Darlene and the labor movement here in Boston.
Hi. Good to see you. Hi.
And what I wanted to open with is pretty simple. Vice President Harris, President Joe Biden, they have done their part. They have done their job to get people back to work, to give people a chance in America. Let's hear it for this administration and how much they do. One more round of applause for our great Vice President, please. Thank you, Kamala. Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Madam Vice President, you've had an amazing career supporting workers at every point across your career. When you were the District Attorney of San Francisco, the Attorney General of California, an amazing United States Senator fighting the good fight. And then as Vice President, you have stood by unions. You have stood by workers in America your entire career. Can we ask you this morning, why has it been so important to you personally, and why so important for this administration to continue that work?
So I'll start with this. I believe that all labor, all work has value, and that all working people deserve to be acknowledged for the value that they offer all of us. I believe in the dignity of work and the importance of workers receiving through wages and benefits the recognition of what they do. And so the work that I have done throughout my career has been side by side with labor, recognizing the importance of the labor movement, recognizing the fact that without unions, look, whether you've never been a part of a union or have been a member of a union, thank unions for the 5-day week. Thank them for the 8-hour workday. Thank them for sick leave, for any paid family leave,
Absolutely.
for vacation time. Brought to you by unions for all workers, whether or not you're a member of a union or not. There's also this piece that is fundamentally a piece that really is about what's right and what is just. When you think about collective bargaining. So collective bargaining, here's the bottom line about what that's about. In any negotiation, right, and SAG-AFTRA, congratulations, IATSE, congratulations on what you guys just accomplished. The culinary workers just struck a deal, right? We're seeing it across. And wages are going up as a result of all those negotiations, by the way. Collective bargaining if we all agree that in any negotiation, the outcome should be fair, right? Everyone should start there. In any negotiation, the outcome should be fair. Well, when you're dealing with one worker against a company, against a corporation, do we think that outcome of that negotiation is going to be fair?
No way.
It won't be, because of the disparity of power. So collective bargaining is about saying, let the workers have a voice as a collective, all together, representing each one of them as a group, and then go into that negotiation, because then you start to equal out the balance in terms of power in a way that the outcome will be fair. That's what collective bargaining is about. That's what worker organizing is about. It's about saying we should never require that one working man or woman to be having to argue for themselves, to fight for themselves without their brothers and sisters standing with them as a collective to just get what's fair. That's what this is about. So fundamentally for me, it's about the dignity of work. It's about what is fair in recognizing the value of workers.
It's amazing. Let's hear it for our Vice President with that response. Thank you, Vice President. In this room today, we have some leaders who've been doing this work for a long time. We have some brand new leaders, too, who've been fighting the good fight. Yeah. And what I want to say about this room here, and the folks in the room know it, the Greater Boston Labor Council and the unions are represented here. And then there's an entire team out there fighting the good fight outside the building, too. And what this room represents, as you know well, is the front line against income inequality. Making sure that we develop, or we build, or someone comes into the construction project we just built and has their career for their next 30 or 40 years. This is a simple piece of fairness that the Vice President just mentioned. Either every single one of those jobs turns into the ability to put food on the table, to provide some health care benefits, to provide some dignity and retirement, or without the power of unions, it's going to turn into profits for somebody else. Shareholder dividends, stock options. What this room represents, what this administration represents, is making sure American workers have a chance again, to put the power back into unions, to invest in unions, and to invest in our communities. So let's hear it for our communities, absolutely, in the union movement. So, Vice President, some of our leaders in the room with us, I'd like to, go to a question from the crowd.
Yeah.
I'd like to turn to Eric Pires, an apprentice with IBEW Local 103. Let's hear it for Eric, everybody. Union brother right here from Dorchester.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Eric Pires. I've been a member since 2020 of IBEW, Local 103. I'm a fourth-year apprentice, and I'm an alumni of Building Pathways of the Cycle 21.
Let's hear it for Building Pathways.
And I want to say good afternoon to Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
Just want to thank you for being here. And my question is, apprenticeships, opportunities for me and people of my community have been very crucial on progressing in life, and also giving us that opportunity to chase our goals and pursue our goals.
Yeah.
With that being said, we know that you've been an advocator and an avid supporter of the trades and apprenticeships. And we wanted to ask you, you've been an avid supporter of the apprenticeship programs, especially union-based programs. I'm sorry, I apologize. And what I want to ask you are thoughts about why you think apprenticeships are so important, and what are you planning on doing in the future for apprenticeships, nationwide?
All right.
Good
Thank
question.
you for that question, and thank you for your
Great
leadership.
job, Eric.
Well done. It's about you and all of the apprentices who are here and those who are in the pre-apprenticeship program. It's about building up the skills of America's workforce so we can take care of the people of our country and working people, but also so we can lead around the globe. There is so much about the agenda that the president and I have that is about strengthening the working people of America, building the middle class, building up our infrastructure, building up the ability of all people to be able to have the benefit of their hard work, be it wages and benefits or pensions and retirements. But it's also about our ability and need to be able to compete around the world, right? Well, so one of the best pipelines to get to that end, forgive my pipelines, get it?
We appreciate it.
You have to deal with my
It's in the
sense of
name.
humor. Are the pre-apprenticeship programs and the apprenticeship programs. Those are hard programs. Those are difficult programs. Those are long days and often some nights working to build up extraordinary skills. I have visited I'm on a mission. I don't know if I'll accomplish it, to visit every IBEW local in America. Let me tell you.
What a goal.
When I visit the apprenticeship programs and I see the extraordinary skills that include, it's about complex math, it's about engineering, it's about science, it's about thinking about how do we apply technology to the work we have traditionally done that has been about building up and fortifying our country. And to watch a young person enter an apprenticeship program from the time of the pre-apprenticeship program and to watch that path, which I know so many of us have seen, that builds up not only the skills, but the confidence and the swagger of that young person as you go through the program is so wonderful to see. So it is about developing very, very complex skills, highly skilled individuals and workers. But also what I love about our apprenticeship programs is it's about family. One of the beauties of the nature and the character of unions is it is, as I said earlier, about the collective, but understand in that the collective is about family. So yeah, it's about you not just being at the bargaining table by yourself, but also not being in life by yourself. Right. The people who train you and who develop your skills, they are people who are invested in you as a human, as a person. It's about the creation of community. And that's so important. You know, as I travel our country, there are some powerful forces, so-called leaders, extremists, who have as part of their agenda to try and divide our nation, have as their agenda to try and make people feel alone, to have people live in fear. And at this moment in time, I think about the culture and the movement, the labor movement in a number of ways, including the importance of building community and reminding people they're not alone. It's really important. It's important. And so that's how I think about the apprenticeship programs. And so part of what the president and I have done and our administration has done intentionally with all of the labor leaders who are here, I mean, Boston, a good old labor town, is to write into and to build into our policies that apprenticeship programs will very much be the way to go to build up the workforce to then do the work that we have funded. Think about it. We have for example, lead pipes. So the work you're doing in apprenticeship programs includes training pipe fitters, who are and the work and plumbers and everybody. So the work that we have done on lead pipes has been this. For years, the grandparents, the parents in communities like Flint, Michigan, have been crying out because their babies are drinking toxic water out of lead pipes. And they've been saying, we may not be scientists or doctors, but we know there's a connection between the water coming out of those pipes and the health outcomes for our children, including an impact on their learning ability. And by the way, lead pipes were not just in low-income communities, communities of color. They were all over America. But see, in communities with high rates of home ownership, where people have a little extra money in their savings account, they could then come out of pocket or take some equity out of their home to replace those pipes. People in low-income communities, renters, didn't have that kind of latitude and luxury. And so you see then we're talking about the inequity of who then suffered in which communities and which children then were invariably impacted by the lead coming out of those pipes. So our perspective was it's a public health issue. Government has 3 roles: public health, public education, and public safety. Public health, it's a public health issue if the children of America are drinking toxic water that is impacting their ability to learn. So we decided it should not just be on that individual to replace those pipes. We as the government should invest in the replacement and the removal of all those lead pipes. Because of what you all did in 2020, because Joe Biden is President of the United States, I am Vice President of the United States, we are on track with your partnership removing every lead pipe in America.
Unreal.
And so the apprenticeship program and bringing more young people into the apprenticeship programs means building up the workforce that's going to get rid of all those lead pipes with the $15 billion we have invested in getting that job done. We're counting on you. We're counting on you. And the way that you're going to come into the workforce with the incredible skills that will do that is through the apprenticeship program. There you go.
Absolutely. You know, if we take a moment to think about it, you know, a lot of people have talked about infrastructure investment for a long time. The Biden-Harris administration got it done. Not only that, but they didn't just talk about built infrastructure. They talked about human infrastructure. What happens to the jobs? What happens to the people? Who are we investing in? They are investing in every American. We have so many graduates here today and union brothers and sisters from the Building Pathways program. Yeah. Let's hear it for Building Pathways. And a friend of ours, a lot of friends in this room, Marty Walsh, a friend of our great vice president, when he came back to Boston. Marty. I felt Marty. He said, listen, one word, she's unbelievable. That's what he said when he came back to Boston.
Brother.
He's the best.
Yeah.
But this program, Building Pathways, it was this idea. How do we make sure that every career in America is a good career? Yeah. And how do we make sure that everyone has access to them?
Right.
And it was simply put, going to communities, into neighborhoods, telling people about what unions do and what they represent as the organized labor movement to invest in each other, invest and fight with each other. As we were walking up, she said, we haven't gotten anything we didn't fight for. So we have an incredible fighter on the stage. And I also think that we have an incredible group of fighters in this crowd. Yeah. One of them here with us this morning, our union sister, Shantae Carney. If we can call on Shantae for the next question. We have another question from Shantae right here, Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother B. Good afternoon. My name is Shantae Carney, proud member of Labor's Local 223.
Here for 223, yeah.
I've been with them for 10 years, thank God. And I also am a graduate from Building Pathways program, Cycle 8.
VP.
So good afternoon, Madam Vice President.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And thank you for your advocacy and your effort. We highly appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So for starters, I'm going to ask a question, but I'm going to tell you guys why this question is so important to me. I'm going to share that with you. One of my first jobs, I was like one of 3 women. That's accurate, right? Like one of 3 women on the job. And then it was like a handful of minorities. And it was cool because I still felt protected. I still learned, I still earned money, but it wasn't okay that my people, I didn't mirror, my own kind and on the job. However, a program like Building Pathways, let me go back, let me get my thoughts. So.
Take your time.
I know, I'm like all over the place.
You're good, don't worry
So
about
important, Shantae. Thank you for doing it, sister.
So when I used to meet, I'm a natural nurturer. I used to go up to the apprentice, which was young white men on the job. I would ask them how their day was going, if they're okay, what safety measures they should be taking, things like that. But I always found that it was young white males on the jobs. And I would go home to my community like, wait a minute, these young men talk about the assets they have at the age of 25 under, things that they're doing, vacations that they go on, family houses, cabins, all these things. And I'm like, wait, but when I go home to my community, people 25 and under can't even fathom this stuff. Why is that? And it was so unfair. And it was like crushing, actually. However, Building Pathways, once again, thank God, was created, and that is a way to build pathways into the construction industry for minorities and young youth in the inner city. So we appreciate Building Pathways. And I relate that to the question by saying the young people and the colored people of color.
People of color.
Sorry. I like to just say black people, brown people. But
That works
the
out
people coming in, people of color coming in, we are driving the momentum of, mess that up. We are driving the, oh God.
Shantae, let's hear it for Shantae.
It's all right.
Thank you, sister.
So the young people and the people of color are driving the union movement across the country, with Boston being one of the primary places. And so the question is, how are we going to keep up or keep building this positive momentum?
That's a wonderful question. That's a
Thank you,
wonderful
Shantae.
question. That's a wonderful question. And the beauty of how you presented the question is to first talk about the fact that we're talking about real people and real experiences. So I appreciate the way you built up the question. And it's about exactly your voice, reminding folks of the empowerment that happens when we are purposeful about asking who's not in the room. I think it's always important to ask, to look around the room and then ask who's not in the room, and then figure out how to bring them in. And often, and all of the leaders here know, often it's not just because you might leave the door open. That's not enough. You got to go out to where folks are, literally where they are, be it where they are geographically or where they are in terms of what they're bringing in terms of life experience to the moment, to be able to connect with them and bring them in with the true spirit of knowing that they matter and that they can contribute. And that's one of the beautiful things about the program that you're in. And Marty has talked to me about it extensively, because it was designed with that in mind, which again gets back to the point about all people deserve dignity.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I love about human nature is that people know when you look them in the eye whether you respect them or not. People know when they're being looked down upon. And similarly, the good work that is happening here is about understanding this is not about charity. It's about duty. Charity, that's like, oh, I got a little extra. I'm going to throw you something. Duty is about, it's your responsibility, even if you've only got a little bit. It's your duty, it's your responsibility to think about how you will exercise your power in a way that's about lifting people up. And again, I'll go back to this environment right now. There's a perverse thing happening in our country where some people would suggest that the strength of a person is measured based on who you beat down, as opposed to what I think everyone here knows, that the true measure of strength is based on who you lift up.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so part of it is, let's call that out. When you're talking about how are we going to continue to build on this movement and momentum, let's call it out and say, no, that's a sign of weakness. The press is here. I got some words, I got the vocabulary, and my pronunciation is perfect. But that's not who we are. We don't applaud that, and we will not be afraid of that. Because strength is on our side. Those of us who believe in empowerment, those of us who believe in sharing and recognizing the dignity of all people, those of us who are invested in bringing people together, those of us who are invested in unity, versus those who have an agenda that's about division and exclusion and beating people down and making people feel small. But we're in a fight right now on a lot of this about what is the right approach, what is the correct approach. Who are we gonna associate ourselves with in terms of a way of thinking about what's important and what actually is about strength? But I know every one of us in this room, we've chosen where we are on that. We're about recognizing the strength in community, in unity, in dignity, in hard work, in bringing folks together. And it's all good. It's all
What an
good.
answer. That's the power of the labor movement right there. That is the goal of the labor movement.
Yeah.
Making sure that we're sticking up for one another, sticking
right.
together,
That's right.
making lives a little easier, a little better for people. That's what the Biden-Harris administration does every day. That's what our vice president fights for. You know, our friend of ours, Shaton Green, in the crowd today, he always says, talent isn't found. Talent is developed. And what that simply means to us, it's an incredible line, but that's what apprenticeship represents. This is Construction Apprenticeship Week in the United States. Our incredible vice president chose Boston and come, let's talk about it. But project labor agreements,
Yeah.
it's a simple document that says,
Yeah.
this document represents fairness. It gives everybody in the community a chance, no matter what you look like or what neighborhood you come from. You want to be in the union? Sign up, let's get to work. Pretty simple. That's what the PLA does. That's why we put building pathways into it, to make sure that everybody gets a chance in these incredible careers. But in addition to that, PLAs represent so much for our community, and essentially the fairness that our vice president talks about. So as we think about going back to do the work that we do every day, let's hold what the vice president told us. Support each other. Fight for each other.
Yeah.
We do not have a better example of someone who does that every day than our vice president. But I think the example that you're setting, Madam Vice President, it's incredible. We were talking in the back, we might do a pizza night with some of our union sisters and brothers someday when you have a chance to take a few minutes
I would
off. We
love
know you don't
nothing
have a
more.
break. But this is an example, this administration, our vice president, our president. This is what they represent, giving people a chance, making sure unions are invested in. Because when they invest in unions, they know they are investing in America. So this is simple for us in Boston. We know what the power union does. We have champions and allies in the White House, in DC, the most powerful building in the world, fighting for us. So you have an incredible group of folks out here that want to fight right alongside you. They have your back. We know you have ours. What advice would you give to this room? How can we continue this momentum? How can we keep fighting for the future that we all know is possible when we stick together? How can we do that, Madam Vice President?
Well, I'll start by saying, in particular to the younger leaders here, let's start by just always knowing you're not alone. Know you're not alone. Sometimes you are going to walk in a room where you may be the only one like you, who has had your life experience or looks like you. And it's really important when you're in those rooms to remember this room and hold that, to know that when you walk in that room, we're all in that room with you. Because the last thing you ever want anybody to be able to do is make you feel small or make you feel alone. So that's the first piece of advice. Always know you are not alone. And we stand with you. I'd also say, many of you will have an experience and have already had an experience where somebody will say to you, you can't do that, or it can't be done, or they're not ready for you, or it's not your time, or you're too young. Don't you ever listen to that. I like to say, I eat no for breakfast. I don't hear no. I don't hear no. And don't you either. Don't you ever hear when anybody says it can't be done. Just know what you are capable of and then surround yourself and make choices like you've already done. To surround yourself with people who believe in you and are invested in you. And I love the point you made, Brian, about talent. And you're already on the path. All the young leaders who are here today, you're already well on the path. You've figured all this stuff out. And then just also remember that our country will be as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And we love our country. We love our country. And our country was founded on certain principles that are about equality and fairness, freedom, liberty. And in the midst of an environment where there are some people who are engaged in a full-on attack against the hard-fought and hard-won freedoms and liberty that union leaders have always been at the forefront of fighting for, I also want to remind us all that each of us as individuals standing up for those principles will make a difference. This is not time to be a passive observer. There is so much on the line in our country right now. You know, I have now as vice president traveling the world, I've now met over 100 world leaders.
Wow.
Presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. When we walk in those rooms representing the United States of America, we walk in chin up, shoulders back, with the earned and self-appointed authority to talk about the importance of democracies, rule of law, human rights. But here's the thing about being a role model. Everybody here is a role model, so you know what I'm about to say. When you're a role model, people watch what you do to see if it matches what you say. People around the world are watching. And they're asking some of them. I was just in the UK, in London, where some of them pulled me aside. What's going on in your country? You guys gonna be okay? Because it's gonna have an effect on what's happening in our countries. This is a moment in time for us to really understand that this fight that has always been the fight that has been about, the fight that labor has always been engaged in for fairness, for workers' rights, that's a big part of, for Joe Biden and me, a big part of our foreign policy as well as our domestic policy, fighting for workers' rights, to make sure in these agreements that workers' protections are in place. Right now, everything that we will do as individuals and collectively is going to have an impact not only on the people in our backyard, not only the people in our country, but potentially people around the world. And I'll end with this. You know, the nature of democracy, I think it's like there's two parts to it. On the one hand, when democracies are intact, they're incredibly strong. What they do to protect individual liberty and freedoms and rights. There's a great strength in that. Also, very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Our democracy is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And so fight we will. Fight
Absolutely.
we will. And when we fight,
we win.
We win.
Do you want to say anything else? We'll close it out.
Well, I'll just say, I'm just, to the apprentices who are here in the pre-apprenticeship program as well, I'm so proud of you. You guys really are role models. We really do. Joe Biden and I have to tell you, he sends his love to everybody here. We spend a lot of time together, he and I. And when we are just having a moment, if we're sitting in the Oval Office or wherever, and we are thinking about what we are working for, we absolutely have you guys in mind. We have you in mind in such a proud way. You all are seeing through everything that we are fighting for and trying to do. I say that to the younger leaders of every age. All the young leaders who are here. We really do have you in mind. And we're making a difference. And I know folks are working so hard. We're really making a difference. And the work you are doing as union leaders will have an impact on people you may never meet, people who may never know your name. But because of what you are doing, their lives are benefiting. So I thank you all, everybody here. Thank you.
Wow. Hey, I think it's pretty plain to see. We have someone who's strong and focused and investing in us. Are we going to fight for our vice president, our president? When we fight, when we fight, when we fight, Madam Vice President, we can't thank you enough. Thank you for being here with us today. You do an incredible job for us. And on behalf of everybody here, thank you for all you do in Washington, D.C. Let's hear it for our Vice President.